Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. I'm Ramble, and today we are going to be reviewing Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. It's a new action RPG by A44 Games, who have only released one other title that I haven't even played, so it's been pretty interesting. I streamed it a few weeks back, and the main reason I'm kind of on board with this one is because there were a few striking details about it, and I haven't really heard about anyone else talking about it, and I love recommending slightly obscure pieces of media. With all that said, let's get into this. So, before we go over the plot, I need to describe the game itself. The simplest explanation is that it's a Souls-like, but I feel that term is getting a bit fuzzier in definition, since Souls-likes can be a lot of things now. A more accurate explanation is that, well, it took some time, but during the stream I ended up calling it an odd mix of Bloodborne and the new God of War games with a hint of Devil May Cry. It's an action RPG that uses a similar combat system to God of War 2016, but adds in more Souls-like elements and Bloodborne's gun parry mechanic. The Devil May Cry bit comes from a multiplier that grows from mixing of attacks and abilities, like that stylish combo thing, and it has a really interesting way it affects the progression by allowing you to increase the amount of currency, like souls, or in this case reputation, that you gain. I'll explain a bit more about it later on in the gameplay segment. Now, the plot itself is pretty simple on face value, but the world is kind of interesting. Basically, you play as Nor Vanek, a member of the Coalition who fights against an endless horde of the undead that's been unleashed onto the living. However, this isn't your classic zombie apocalypse. This is the work of a fantasy world's gods who have betrayed humanity and forced the gates to the underworld open, causing the city of Dawn to be overwhelmed by legions of the dead that threaten to overrun the rest of the continent. Now, when we start the game, the Coalition has managed to push the Horde back to the city and send Nor as a last-man addition to join a squad on a mission to blow a hole in the walls so they can breach it and close the doors. The plan quickly goes wrong, however. Nor destroys a barrier and unwittingly frees the gods from their imprisonment. She's nearly killed alongside several other members of her team, but is saved from death by a mysterious god named Enki, who takes the form of a horned fox. After failing to kill him because, gods have ruined her life, she makes a deal with Enki and promises to help him stop his fellow gods from wreaking havoc on the world it created and potentially killing the king of the gods, Uru. So yeah, the game has some classic God of War vibes with that premise, and I really did enjoy this game. The combat has a good crunchy feel, hitting them with heavy blows, making them stagger, firing off your rifles. The black powder weapons add a lot of unique, interesting things to gameplay, from the basic pistol to blunderbuss to even the handheld mortar. They all have a lot of weight to them, and you can shoot basically any attacking enemy to parry them, like Bloodborne's gun parry, but it gives you like a full stagger that's repeatable. Add in explosive dash and double jump, and combat becomes a literal blast, not even talking about Enki's whole hopping into portals thing that you can swap mid-animation. This becomes even more interesting with that multiplier I mentioned earlier. See, it resembles a style meter in a typical character action game like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. During combat encounters, using multiple different types of attacks and movement abilities while not getting hit will make the multiplier increase. The interesting thing is that the multiplier also tracks how much reputation, the soul/blood echo currency, you've acquired since it appeared. The multiplier vanishes if you get hit, but you can start building it up again by hitting the enemy and continuing the fight. If you manage to go an entire encounter without taking damage, or just have some, combo meter after the combat ends, maybe you got hit but halfway through but managed to not get hit for the rest of the fight, you can cash in the multiplier to multiply the reputation you earned since you started building it, which gives you a really cool way to build a lot of reputation by just not getting hit. Like, getting a no-hit run is going to make you exponentially better because you'll be able to spend it more on upgrades and get better and better and stronger, which is a really cool way to encourage those no-hit runs and speed runs and stuff like that. This is kinda hard to do consistently, but offers an amazing advantage to really skilled players. It even applies to bosses, so if you can go a whole boss fight without getting hit, which I never managed to do, you can probably cash it in for an insane amount of advantage on your next level. That brings us to the bosses, which are great fights. There aren't a ton of unique bosses, but the 4 gods and 1 other unique boss stand as interesting challenges in their own rights. I liked their unique designs. The 3-headed, 3-armed, sword-wielding God of Justice was a really cool addition. I loved the 2-faced Sphinx. And I particularly liked the way that if you're skilled enough, you can practically stun lock them using repeated gun parries. One mistake can also just let the boss wail on you and destroy your health bar with its combos. They can be pretty challenging to dodge. And of course, you also have a god on your side. Like Atreus in God of War, you can click to have Enki attack them. And as you get upgrades, he can even start distracting them in combat or doing super moves and various other things, alongside giving a status condition whenever he does damage to them, which is one of the main things. You can build it up for like a critical hit attack. It's really cool. I like it. It gives you a reason to actually use the triangle attack, because one of the main problems I have with Atreus is that unless I needed to deal with a specific enemy, I didn't really use it. But with Enki, every enemy you should probably just be using his charges on, because they can give you a critical attack and allow you to just smack them for a bunch of damage. It's great. There's also other things about this game that just really strike me. One of the things I noticed, and I verified this by checking all the equipment I didn't miss, because I didn't 100% the game yet, but I did check online and see all the different equipment you can gather. There's no repetitive equipment. Everything here has a unique effect. There are 3 pieces of armor in each set. There are 5 sets. There's a pauldron, a helmet, and a gauntlet. All of them seem to actually be something you might want to use depending on your playstyle, and they're each part of one of 5 sets that have unique effects and have set bonuses and stuff like that. So none of this, oh look, I found like a +1 weapon, and then I find a +2 weapon, and then a +3 weapon. I found an armor piece that has 16 versus 17, or increases one of my stats. No, these have actual unique effects. One of my favorites actually was a gauntlet that gave you 2 or 3 more meters of range, which was actually really useful because you want to kind of stay away from the enemies but still wail on them a bit. Your main go-to items are your axe, which there are 6 of, and your pistol, which there are 5 of. Well, technically there are 4 pistols and then a blunderbuss. I didn't really like the blunderbuss that much. I mostly went with Nor's default pistol, but they all have their unique benefits, and I could see different playstyles where you'd use them. There are also 6 secondary weapons, which you can have 2 of equipped that you can switch to. Those are kind of cool. You basically have to do a little mini-game to reload them. A perfect reload will give you more damage. It's one of those slider games where the icon moves back and forth real quick, and you have to like get it right in the sweet spot. You can load everything from a basic musket to a goddamn mortar, and let me tell you, the mortar was great. Loved it. You also have a flamethrower, but I didn't find that one. In addition, you have grenades, which work great for clearing out groups of enemies, or just getting some space sometimes, since enemies will often try and avoid them. You can also upgrade these weapons multiple times, but the resources are pretty scarce, at least on the main path, so you'll probably have to do more side questing. Then we have the setting. Holy shit, I love this world. It's a fantasy-style world, but one that's further down the tech tree, like 1800 style. Like I mentioned a few times before, it should be obvious from the name as well. Flintlock weaponry has been popularized, so there are guns. Magic is mostly derived from gods or weird artifacts, so Nor gets to call forth Enki while fighting enemies with a hatchet and a pistol. It's so cool, and I wish more fantasy would play around with a slightly more advanced setting, so that we don't just go back to classic fantasy all the time. I've been seeing more of that lately, though. The art director apparently claimed they took inspiration from Shadow and Bone, and the imagery was supposed to resemble the Napoleonic era. Which, yeah, I can see how this would be kind of Shadow and Bone-ish inspired. That makes some sense. The world of Flintlock is also very alien and different from our own in just odd ways, sometimes without any explanation. The main example I like to use is, well, it's pretty early on, so this isn't really a spoiler. After saving this first town, like one of the first areas you can kind of clear out and get a hub area going, you unlock this travel point, which is a coffee shop for some reason. I go inside, and suddenly this weird abomination made of only arms climbs up on a table, picks up a mask, starts talking to me while 2 of its arms stir the coffee, and I was so confused. Nor just acted like everything was completely normal, and I never got an explanation about it. Apparently these good hosts, as they were called, were just creatures that exist and run coffee shops that are safe havens everywhere. It was very strange, but in a good way that makes the world feel unique. There are a lot of other things like that. I get sort of a Final Fantasy-esque vibe from it at times, but I do like the setting, and I actually want to come back here for a sequel. The voice actors really help bring the setting to life, too. Nor's voice actor is Olive Gray. She hasn't been in any video games before. She has been in several movies. She's also in the Halo show as Dr. Keyes, which is weird because she's really good in this, and I remember that show being absolutely terrible and everyone in it being terrible, but good on her for getting in something actually pretty good. Enki is by Alistair Petrie. He was in Rogue One as that general guy, you know, the guy in the white with the cape who tried to stop the rebel team from stealing the plans. That whole thing, yeah, that was him. And he does a fantastic job as Enki. The 2 of them have a really cool dynamic, too. One of my favorite scenes was at the very beginning. Again, I'm only really talking about stuff from the very beginning right now, where Enki saves Nor's life, and he's like, so, will you work with me to destroy the gods? Like, you're a god. It's like, yes, but she just throws an axe at him, and I was like, well, yeah, fair. She's been fighting a horde of, dead people because the gods decided to fuck over her entire people and destroy her home. That's a fair reaction. And I liked how they had a very distrustful dynamic because Enki actually did keep secrets, and those secrets could legitimately have stopped people from helping him. That's the thing I always get annoyed about with like character secret reveals, because the secret is damaging, but we still would have helped you because we had no choice. Then there's not really a reason to keep it. But honestly, this is one of the few times where I feel like even if Nor had no choice, if she had known what Enki had done before she had gotten to know him, before she had fought alongside him and seen how much he loved the human world, she would have flat out tried to just kill him again or let him kill her. She wouldn't have helped him. And it's only after they grow and the other gods start hinting at Enki's mistake, his dark past, and how he abandoned them, that Nor starts to really force him to answer her. And at this point, they built an actual bond, and so she's not really ready to get rid of him. She sees that he regrets his mistakes. And Enki saw Nor as just a tool, something he could originally use to fix his problems. But over time, he goes to respect her, and she respects him. It's a very good dynamic. Not every game pulls it off, even when they try and do partners like this, so I was really happy to see this. And I think the voice actors just do a really good job of bringing the whole thing to life. I liked Nora's mentor and some of the other members of her little campfire group. But the game isn't really that long. You've got the tutorial, then you've got 2 acts followed by a boss fight encounter with one of the gods. Then you have the 3rd climaxing act where you fight 2 different gods. And that's basically it. You go to the peaks, you go to the main city, and then you go back to Dawn, defeat the gods, and end credits. It was a very short game. I finished it in about 4 sessions of my stream. So you should be able to clean up in easily under 8 hours. If you're doing completionists, this might be a fun game because, like I said, in order to get enough reputation to get all the stuff, you have to use the combo style multiplier, which could be a really fun way to add replay value over time. So I'm glad to see that. However, this game isn't perfect, and that brings me to what I think is probably its biggest downside. And the thing that's going to turn a lot of people off, I think. Look, the game looks pretty cool from a art design perspective, but it's very clear it was made by a smaller team than your usual like AAA project, and the animations are, how should I put this, janky looking. They work, the characters will mostly move as you want to and everything like that. It's just, the dash looks like she's just crouching and dashing forward without any forward momentum. A lot of background NPCs will start acting like robots during cutscenes, and occasionally the graphics can kind of just fuck up a bit. It's not too annoying. Honestly, I kind of had fun just kind of joking along with it while I was playing. It's mostly just funny, but I could see how some people be like, oh, this looks horrible. I'm like, yeah, it's not the best looking game out there, but the music is pretty good, the characters are fun, it has an interesting world design. Please, people, graphics aren't everything. The other problem I have is that sometimes because of the visual clutter in the game, it's a problem with a lot of AAA games, I get a little lost. But I will say this is probably one of the games where that's least likely to happen, because especially in the big open areas, you can oftentimes find those little shortcut portals where Enki can teleport up to them, and you can even jump between them mid-flight, which is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. Quick interjection real quick. This is something I felt the need to add in, because I forgot to put in the original review, and I already recorded the PNG tuber thing. I didn't really want to do that over, but I did feel it's necessary to say, despite most of the game's issues being visual in nature, I did experience a crash repeatedly on the PS5 version during the final boss fight. I'm not sure if they fixed it with a patch, but it is something I felt the need I needed to like stop and add that in. I didn't really have a lot of crashes. It was literally just with the final boss fight, but it was annoying, especially with the run up and having to repeat that over and over again. So yeah, back to the normal review. Sorry about this interjection. And honestly, my biggest complaint is that it's just kind of a little short. 5 bosses, only 4 of which are actually your like main god threats, is a little low. It's a little light. And I would really like to see a sequel to this, because the ending, which I'm not going to spoil, but it was rife for potential sequels. I would love to see what they do now, because Enki and Nor are still together there at the end. I'm going to tell you that much. But, oh my god, I would love to see a sequel with Enki and Nor. I like these characters. I like this world. I think it is a fun game that has a lot of ideas behind it. And also, let me gun parry, which I haven't been able to do since Bloodborne. So yes, I am going to insist that this gets a sequel. So, yeah, in conclusion, I like this game a lot. It gets a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Moving on from there, we have the announcements. Hey guys, I'm going to be trying out something new, starting with this video, so I'm going to try and make some more shorts. And I've been talking about that for a while. Finally, I figured out a format I might want to try out, so let me know how it works out for you. Basically, there's going to be a short that's going to link back to each of my new reviews coming up in the next few weeks. I'm going to see if I want to keep this up. But the main thing is, I like to recommend different things. If you play a video game, I'm like, hey, maybe you'll like this book too. It has similar themes or ideas or plot structures. And I'm going to try doing that. So whenever I release a review on a movie or a game or a book or anything like that, I'm going to have a short that's going to link back to it, partially to get some more people on the channel, and also because I like recommending you things. So if you think you might want to, hear what I would recommend for people who like the idea of gods invading the mortal world and dead that won't stay dead, there's a short for that. Go check out my shorts. They're fun. They're kind of stupid. I don't have many of them right now, but I will be working on some more, hopefully in the future. Sorry this review took so long too. I've been slowing down my video structures so I can get a bit more time into them, and also just because I've been busy. So I hope you guys liked this. In addition, we have some other reviews coming up in the future. I am going to be doing a review of Alien Romulus eventually, but that's going to be a ways out because I don't want to do 2 movie reviews too close to each other. There are some books coming out, but nothing definitive yet for a review. The next thing I'm probably going to be reviewing is The Dragon Prince's newest season on Netflix. I have some mixed thoughts on it. It started off really high and kind of got a bit messy, but I didn't want to just release a review immediately on that one because, like I said in my previous review, I really did want to take some time to really think about that show because I rushed out its previous review and I regret it. In addition, if you're not aware, I stream on YouTube and Twitch at 7:30 Central Standard Time US. Check me out. I really have enjoyed some people coming by. DJ in particular has been to like every stream, so thank you, man. It means a lot. Finally, we have the out card. There's a subscribe board. Click on it, go to my channel, subscribe. Seriously, with 221 subscribers, I'd love to see it go higher. And there is also a video YouTube recommends. I will see you all next time. Bye.